Emily George was a charming young woman, known for her infectious smile and her obsession with taking selfies. Every day, without fail, Emily would snap a photo of herself. One Tuesday afternoon, as Emily strolled through Willowbrook Park, a perfect picturesque background, she felt compelled to take her daily selfie. As she raised her phone and struck a pose for the camera, a strange sensation crept down her spine. There, in the distance, amidst the trees and foliage, stood a female figure. The woman seemed to be staring right at Emily, shrouded in an eerie aura. Shaken but dismissive of her imagination's whims, Emily chalked it up to a crazy lady and figured she was just overthinking things. The next day, she took another selfie. The woman remained behind her, like a faint silhouette standing in the background. Emily squinted at her phone's screen, and then quickly glanced back, to see no one there. But with the next photo she took, the woman was still there. An uneasy feeling lingered in her mind as Emily closely stared at the image. Emily's heart raced in her chest as her hands trembled and tightly clutched her phone. It had been days since she last took a selfie, hoping that avoiding the haunting ritual would keep the woman at bay. But the unsettling feeling gnawed at her, the feeling that she could not properly explain. With a shaky breath, Emily mustered the courage to break her self-imposed exile from selfies. She needed to know if the haunting woman still lurked within the confines of her photographs. Her reflection stared back at her from the screen, but her eyes darted nervously to the background, half expecting to see the ghostly specter hovering behind her. Her finger hovered over the on-screen shutter button, hesitating for a moment before finally pressing it. She quickly swiped to her gallery, her breath caught in her throat as the image loaded. At first glance, nothing seemed amiss. It was just a regular selfie of Emily, but her eyes portrayed the fear that would not leave her. Then, she noticed it, the faint outline of a woman standing at the far end corner of the room. Her eyes widened in terror as she zoomed in on the silhouette, her heart hammering in her chest. The ghostly figure was unmistakable, a woman dressed in vintage garments. She stood there, partially obscured by the shadows. The room suddenly felt colder, suffocating, as if the very air had thickened with dread. Fear gripped Emily's senses, and she stumbled back, dropping her phone to the floor with a loud thud. She felt panic and paranoia, like she was trapped in a sinister cycle. She felt she couldn't escape the relentless spirit, and with each photo, it seemed to step closer. Frantically, Emily backed away from the phone, her eyes still locked on the haunting image. She couldn't comprehend how the woman had seemed to creep closer to her. Emily retreated from her life. She became a recluse and stopped answering her family and friends' calls. But there was no escape. The ghostly woman haunted every corner of her mind. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, haunted by the knowledge that the entity was drawing near, inch by terrifying inch. In the days that followed, Emily's sanity unraveled like a thread pulled from a tapestry. She couldn't trust her own reflection, or her own shadow. Every mirror was a gateway for the ghostly woman to taunt her. The once vibrant and confident girl was now a mere shell of her former self, her fear and paranoia consuming her from within. And still, she obsessed with the thought of the woman creeping closer, feeding on her torment. There seemed to be no escape from the pursuit of the spirit that had invaded her life through something as innocent as a selfie. Desperate for a way out, Emily made a vow never to take another selfie. She deleted all the photos she had taken, hoping that by erasing the digital traces, she could sever the connection between herself and the spirit. Emily decided to take a break from her phone. For a few weeks she went without the use of a mobile phone. There was an eerie calm. But when Emily finally felt normal enough to visit her friend Sarah, she let her guard down for a forgotten minute. They were chatting and laughing. Emily was able to relax for the first time in a long time. Sarah, oblivious to the curse, in a moment when Emily was distracted, took a surprise photo of Emily. Dread washed over Emily as she realized what had just happened. The woman stood directly behind her in the photo. She became erratic. Emily, wading through a fog of paranoia and despair, descended deeper into complete madness. She fixated on the ghostly figure, and with a manic obsession, researched the history of the park for mention of a woman's death. She believed that if she could uncover the truth behind the haunting, she could find a way to escape the disturbing phantom. But instead, her quest for answers only dragged her deeper into the lost highways of her own mind. The woman would whisper dreadful sounds, taunting her with the knowledge that she was forever marked by its presence. Its chilling sound echoed in her ears, a constant reminder of her helplessness. Emily's grip on reality slipped further as she began to see glimpses of the woman at random times, appearing in reflections, shadows, and even in other people's faces. There was no escape from the relentless haunting. Emily felt completely helpless. There was no choice but to commit her to Brightstone Hospital for the mentally impaired. Emily stared at her reflection in the hospital bathroom mirror. With everything she had, she wanted to explode in a massive scream. But she couldn't scream. She couldn't even move. There was nothing within her. There was nothing left. She was a void. In the end, all she had was the woman.